Hey crafty friends, this is Denise with PaperKraftD. Welcome to my 100-day project video series where I finish one quick paper crafting project every day for 100 days. I'm hoping these videos will inspire you to develop your own daily habit to practice your craft. Even if you only have 15 to 20 minutes, these videos are perfect for you. So if you're looking for ideas, inspiration, and motivation, I hope you join in and maybe even craft along with me. So let's get paper crafting. Okay, so today we're going to continue working on our jelly plate. I've got some inky fingers to prove it. But instead of using regular paper, I'm going to use some matte photo paper. And this is double-sided matte photo paper. This is what I generally, or one of the ones that I generally use for printing printables like tags and labels and things like that. And you can see it's completely matte. It's not a glossy finish photo paper. It's just purely matte. Okay. Again, this stuff is a little bit pricey, so I'm going to go ahead and cut down some pieces just so that, you know, we're not wasting it. And I'm going to make them as close to 5x7 as I can get them. I got the inspiration for this video from Louisa Heinzel, and I'll link the videos where she demonstrates this technique in the description box below. She didn't use a jelly plate in her demonstration, but I think this technique works really well with the jelly plate. It just kind of makes it easier to work with the inks. The thing that's special about matte photo paper is that once the Distress Oxides are on the paper, it's permanent and waterproof. It won't bleed at all. So you can get some really cool effects. Okay, so I have cut a bunch of these pieces of matte photo paper. Okay, what else are you gonna need? You're gonna need some water, a little water with spray bottle water. You're gonna need your Distress Oxides, whatever colors you choose and you want to use. You're gonna need some stamps and a variety of stamps. You might want to have a brayer. I'm gonna use these background stamps. I might use this one, maybe even this one. This one. You can barely see what this is because I've used it so much, but these are all numbers and measuring tapes. Something like that would look really cool. Just kind of some background stamps. So those are just some ideas of stamps. You don't have to use any of these. Use what you have. Okay, I'm going to start with these two. And I'll leave the links to all of these products down below. So I'm first going to try doing a background and then adding the stamp on top. Not sure how that's going to work, how many layers of oxide this can take, but we'll see. All right, so just going to add like we did the other day, but for the paper, but this time this is going to be with photo paper, not regular paper. Okay, just going to make a bit of a variegated background here, and I'm adding a ton of water. Okay, and this I can just, smooth out a little bit. Just kind of give an interesting kind of a background here. Okay. Might just, ooh, I don't like that at all on there. Okay. All right. So now I'm just going to put that down on there and see how that works. Okay. So that's, some pretty paper now. Add a little bit more to this one. Maybe I can salvage it. Okay, I think this needs a lot more of the see how that is definitely looks better when you roller it. Okay. Oh, that's very pretty. Okay, so that's what we've got here so far. I'm turning it, let's see, I've got some extra little globs down there. All right, that I might want to pick up. Okay. All right, so I'm just turning it over, and I'm using this just so that the jelly plate can hold it. And let's see. Now I'm going to be adding a ton of water. Okay, basically just saturating that puppy. And then I'm going to take this frayed burlap and I'm going to ink up my stamps. So I'm just going to, add a ton of ink here. And again, I'm going for a watercolor look. So, that's what I'm going for here. I'm not going for, a perfect image. Right? Okay, so this has been soaking for a little while. And now I'm just going to take, this stamp and kind of go, squish it down in there. And do some in here. Okay. And then I'm going to use some paper towel to just get up the excess. And I'm just going to take this whole thing and let it dry. All right. Okay, so that rusty hinge was really rather dark. Let's see. I think I'd like to add, let's try just adding some of this on top of that. Well, that was less impressive than I had hoped, but we're just experimenting here. And I'm just gonna sop up this extra stuff here. I don't want to. Okay. And I don't want this to be wet when I add more on there. So I'm just sopping up the extra ink. And I like this because it doesn't waste the ink. Okay, how about, so this is dry more or less now. I'm going to use some more of that antique linen, maybe just a little bit of that, and then maybe some frayed burlap on here. Okay. Okay. Let's just mix those a slight bit because that orange is really, really bright. I mean, I'd like some orange, but not maybe quite that much orange. Off camera, I'm rolling the excess paint that's on the roller off on that encyclopedia. Okay, even that seems really bright. Okay. All right, yeah, that's a little bit more what I was looking for. Okay, so I'm just going to put this down like this. And I'm going to soak this again. Okay, and then I'm going to use more of that frayed burlap on top. Okay. All right, so you see you get kind of a painterly effect. And then I'm just going to wipe it off again with some paper towel. And go ahead and let that dry. Okay, so this next one, the background, I want to make it, I don't know, fairly neutral. I'm using some antique linen, some frayed burlap, and let's see, maybe even a little bit of faded jeans. A tiny bit of this rust. Okay, let's see. Wet it really, 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 really well. Okay. And I'm just gonna add the paper in there like that. Oh, that's interesting. I actually really like that. Okay. And I'm sopping up the extra ink. And this is again just printer paper, not anything else. All right, I'm gonna do some more of this around the edge. All right, just add some water till it's not like that hard edge anymore. It's kind of running. You see how it's kind of running there? Okay. Let's just try that and see how that turns out. If that's going to give us the look I'm looking for. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, I'm happy with that. Okay, I've got this background, which I absolutely adore now. And I'm going to spray it real good. Get it nice and saturated. I'm just going to take this whole thing of stamps, and you know, this isn't a perfect methodology anyway, so I'm not even going to take them off the backing here. I just took the top off, and I'm going to ink them all and just plop it on down. Let's see what we get. Just very curious, and I'm using a really dark blue chipped sapphire. And I'm just going to take this, and I've already added tons of water. Yeah, okay, good. And let's see, just add this kind of down like that. Squish it down. Could even brayer this a little bit for good adhesion. Make sure I'm getting all the surfaces. Now I'm not pressing really hard. I'm just kind of going over the whole thing. Oh, that looks cool. I love that. Oh my gosh, I really love that. That looks really cool. All right. And this is a reusable paper towel roll, so I bought this specifically for my art. I think it'd be kind of cool because I can keep it just rolled like that and just reuse it. What I like about this wet technique using the jelly plate is that you can really control where the color goes. You can see here I am creating a border around the edge with some different colors of ink, and it just turns out really, really cool. You can get some really cool effects that you can't necessarily get as easily just by placing the distress oxides or your inks on a regular craft mat. So this is really, really cool. And of course, this technique of just applying the ink to your paper can also be used with just regular paper, just any kind of paper, copy paper, rice paper, what have you. It doesn't have to be photo paper. The cool thing about the photo paper is that you can build up a lot of layers without muddying the layers that are below, because every time you apply the ink, that ink is then permanent on the photo paper. So yeah, so it's just kind of cool. But you could definitely use this technique of kind of framing the exterior of the jelly plate with different colors like I'm doing here with any paper that you happen to have. Okay, so I like that. You can see it's kind of running into each other. Oof, this is overflowing. Yikes. Okay. And I'm getting that, which I love. So the cool thing about this technique is that if you have prints that you have pulled that you're not super thrilled with, you can easily build up the color like I'm doing here. You can see that print off to the right. It's okay. It was a good base layer, but just didn't have a lot of interesting colors around the periphery. So I'm just going to add some more colors just around the edges, and again, just build up those layers of color to make it a more interesting print. Here you can see I'm using a different base layer with some different stamps. These are a sewing pattern stamp, and you just all sorts of different opportunities for creating bases for your journals, your planners, your planner card boxes, your memory keeping albums, whatever it is you want to use this for collage, for art journals. I mean, the list goes on. You can use these prints that you pull any way you like, but they're just a whole lot of fun to make and just experiment with. With this one, I think I'm going to add a little bit of pink on there and see what happens. Just go with a little bit of some Victorian velvet. Oof. This is really, really wet. Do a little bit of that and maybe some of that. Use some of the faded jeans. Okay. I don't know how well the faded jeans is going to go with the Victorian velvet. It's just going to make some purple, but it should be interesting. Oh, that's very pretty. That's very pretty. This is photo paper. Oof. Oh, that's gorgeous. Look at those. That's very soft, those colors. Huh. Just going to add a little bit more of that on there. That's really pretty. That's really pretty. Okay, I have to move this because this is so saturated with water, it's no longer doing its job. So I had to replace that piece of printer paper that was underneath the jelly plate because it was so, full of water that the jelly plate was starting to slip all over the place. It was hydroplaning on the grip mat. So yeah, I just replaced that. It's just, regular 32-pound printer paper. I'm kind of sopping up the extra water that's all over the place and cleaning that up. But I put that piece of paper underneath the jelly plate just so I can see clearly what the colors look like when I put them down and what they're going to look like on the final print that I pull. You can see when I put the jelly plate directly onto that gray grip mat, that Tim Holtz grip mat, it's really hard to see, that gray, you can see right through the plate, so it would be harder to see what those true colors are. All right, and then I've got this one, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. I want to do some of these flowers, like over the pink section. Oh, come on. Let's go over here. There we go. So I do this over the pink section, and I don't know what color to make it though. Let's see. And then I'm gonna do a couple of these butterflies. I'm just gonna get this nice and wet and ink these stamps up really good. And then I'm just gonna take this and put it right. Let's see, can I do it right there? And yeah, burnish it down a little bit. And then oof. Well, let's see how that one turned out. Huh. Okay. The flowers didn't come up all that much. I'm thinking if I don't use all that water on there that I might get a crisper impression from the stamp. I mean, that's not the way Louisa did it. Louisa flooded the matte photo paper with water before stamping for more of a watercolor effect. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay. So that just really adds a whole different level of technique to this, that you don't have to have it so watercolory. You could get a much more crisp, clear image by just using less water, or maybe even no water. I want to do some experiments to kind of play around with this idea a little bit. Okay, so you can see that I've stamped that butterfly 6 times on 3 different strips of paper. The top strip is regular printer paper and the bottom 2 are matte photo paper. So this is that top piece. It's just 32-pound HP printer paper. And on the right-hand side, I wet the paper with a baby wipe before I stamped the butterfly with Distress Oxide ink, I think in Chip Sapphire. And the left-hand side was stamped dry. And you can see that the right-hand side kind of bled a little bit. It's a little blurrier than the left-hand side. All right, and now this is the photo paper. And I did the same thing with this. On the right-hand side, I wet the paper with a baby wipe before stamping with Distress Oxide ink. And on the left-hand side, I stamped the butterfly dry. Different. So you can see with the dry one, it's doesn't look quite as dark. With the slightly wet, it's much darker. And then I thought, well, maybe that's just an artifact. But no, I got 2 more dry. and these are, you know, lighter than the others. So now I thought, okay, well, let's see if any of these run when I add water. So I'm just adding water. All right, so as you'd expect, the butterflies that were stamped on regular copy paper are, you know, wicking, and they're bleeding all over the place. It wouldn't, 32-pound copy paper, regular paper, isn't a good medium for doing lots of wet applications if you're going to try to be doing a lot of different things. If you're just going to be doing stamping and you want a watercolor effect, great. But it's not the best for when you're trying to add layers of different colors and doing some stamping on top of that and all of that good stuff. So this is like, you can see that's coming off. There's purple there, or blue, but really purple. And this is just, nothing's coming off, whether it's stamped dry or wet. I do think you get a little bit better impression if the paper is slightly wet than if it's completely dry. So that's kind of a good tip too. So that's actually a really interesting result. Huh. So here are a bunch of the backgrounds that we made today. And this is the style that Louisa made, where she did kind of more of a watercolory effect. So that's where I got my inspiration, and that is how I started off with this, kind of doing this more watercolory effect. And you can see you get some really beautiful results on this matte photo paper. Really, really pretty. Here's another one. Now this one that was really dark turned out pretty cool. You can see a lot of the oxidation happening in there. And these kind of backgrounds you can almost get just, you know, putting the ink on your mat, right? I mean, there's not anything super unusual about this. What I liked about this is that you could really get a really cool border for your pieces by placing it, you know, on the jelly plate around the edges and stuff, and just getting kind of a really cool effect that way, and then putting your stamps on. And again, this is more of a painterly, watercolory effect, not a very precise effect, but really, really pretty. I really like the way that one turned out. I wanted to try one with less water, and this one is a little bit sharper, the images, so that's actually really cool. I like that. I did this one with the dress pattern, which was, again, very watercolory. And I did this one, which again, I used less of the water, and I got a sharper image. So I had some kind of watercolory looks, and then some that were much sharper because I used less water with those. So that's kind of cool. And these are just a couple backgrounds that we didn't get around to stamping on. And then this one, you can see how using a lot less water, you get a very sharp, crisp image. It's really quite nice. And frankly, I think, you know, I like these kind of watercolory effects, but I think it's this effect with, you know, this experiment where, you know, you can then get things wet and not have them run, not have the Distress Oxides bleed like they do on regular paper, like this does, is really a spectacular result, and something I want to play with a little bit more. It is what makes this matte photo paper so compelling as a medium for doing junk journaling, art journaling, all sorts of different kinds of effects with this. And I just think that this is, so like I could go in now And I could use, you know, watercolor paints to paint up this rose, and this would not bleed, right? Because it's on watercolor matte photo paper. So I could color in that rose, and you know, I don't have to use any kind of special archival inks or other inks like that. This should not bleed. You know, if I go in with more water and more mediums. So you can't really do this with regular paper. If I were to stamp with Distress Oxides on regular paper, every time I added something wet on top of that, it would reactivate the ink on that paper. And then the stamped image would blur, the colors would bleed, and you'd get mud. Okay, so what's really cool about this matte watercolor paper is that you can layer up color. The base layer is permanent and waterproof. So every time you add another layer of color on top of that, it is a layer of color. It won't reactivate what's underneath it, and it just gives you these really bright, vibrant results that, you know, in the past I've only really been able to get with paint, not with inks like this. So it's just such a cool technique. This is what we made today. I hope that this gave you the confidence and inspiration to try this technique out for yourself. It is super cool and really a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that you found some ideas and inspiration to develop your own daily habit and to practice your craft. That is, after all, what the 100-Day Project is all about, that we inspire each other, that we build community, and that we just really get motivated to express ourselves creatively. If you enjoyed today's video, please give this a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I really would love to hear what you're doing and what your plans are for the 100-Day Project, or if you're just enjoying watching everybody's videos, that's okay too. And if you haven't yet subscribed and you enjoy this kind of content, I hope that you do so and that you share my channel with your friends. I will continue posting videos for this 100-Day Project if I get community involvement and people seem to be enjoying these videos. I will continue to do the 100-Day Project regardless, but I just might not post it on social media as frequently if I don't get that kind of involvement and engagement. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Again, this is Denise with PaperKraftD, and craft on.